welcome to Spatial this week in XR. We are decided and delighted to have you here with us and all of these crazy toys that we have all around the room that we'll be playing with. Not only playing with the technology, but also talking about some great headlines that are going on. So, hi, I'm Sarah Hill. Glad to be here.
Charlie Fink, co-host of This Week in XR, the podcast which is recorded in VR. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And to my right, of course, is my partner in crime, Ted Schilowitz.
Hi, I'm Ted. I'm the Futurist at Paramount Pictures and Viacom CBS. And Charlie and I like to banter and theorize and kick things around the VR, XR, MR industries. So we thought we would do it in virtual reality. So here we are.
Yeah, we were supposed to be in person.
Two thorns. I'm the rose between two thorns.
Sarah is a real newscaster, even though she is in the XR industry today, running a extremely interesting and original company called Helium, Healium, not to be mistaken with the inert gas. So tell us what Helium does, Sarah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of feel quite at home here with all of these old broadcasting tools. But Helium essentially is an AR VR product that you're able to power with your body's electricity. So, for instance, a Jaguar, we have a Jaguar on your platform. Using your quiet mind with an EEG headband or a smartwatch, you're able to change the colors on that Jaguar. Or if you have a flower or something like that, you're able to grow the flower bigger and move it around the room just with your thoughts of quiet mind or your focus. So essentially, it's a portable digital chill pill. And because we are in the stress Olympics right now with COVID, and not everybody has trained for it, these beautiful virtual escapes can quickly downshift the nervous system and then remind us that our thoughts have power to control things not only in the virtual world, but the real world as well. So that's my little company. And I'm glad to be on a little nerdy play date with you today.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to be on a nerdy play date with you tomorrow, so we're spending a lot of time together this week.
That's good. So, we got to stop meeting like this.
So this is the show where we take what the headlines give us, and I was worried earlier in the week. We were emailing like, is there even going to be news this week? And then, all heck seems to break loose on Wednesday, Thursday, and more is coming tomorrow. But it looks like the big story right now is The Weeknd is going to be doing a giant giant concert in VR in the Wave, and it is going to be somehow broadcast or streamed on TikTok.
Yeah, the first ever in-app cross reality experience. How cool is that?
I mean, TikTok is like you can't get away from it all of a sudden.
Yeah. And combining that with Wave XR and all the great music that they do, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys do this, but as part of what I like to generally refer to as my youth culture research, I actually do my best to spend a few minutes on TikTok every day, scrolling through and feeling what it's like to be a teenager and locking in on that culture, because it's a big part of where the future heads is. What is youth tapping into, liking, desiring? How long does it last before it falls off the edge of the cliff? And then the next thing takes over, right? And clearly our U.S. government may actually force this off a cliff in an interesting way. So it'll be interesting if The Weeknd actually gets to pull off this little hat trick or not. I certainly actually hope so, because I think it's a very, very viable platform and an interesting way to start to look at sort of youth-based culture and how it relates to music. And, one of the company divisions that I work for is, of course, one of the iconic brands in music technology from a broadcasting standpoint. So it's interesting to see where TikTok is going with this. I think it's actually quite fascinating.
Sarah, have you been using
TikTok? Your TikTok? Yeah. What's your Sarah Midmo on TikTok? So check it out. What's your username, Ted?
I'm a troller. I don't post on TikTok. I just watch everybody else's stuff. My posts are, and as Charlie knows, fairly rare in the social media world on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. But my Twitter is virtual Ted S.
The thing that I love about TikTok is how authentic it is. And I was thinking about, Quibi, Quick Bites, has had a very hard time, and it does not look like they're headed for a happy ending.
Why do you think
Just
that
never
is, I
caught on
wonder?
because they were killed by TikTok because the bites weren't quick enough and they weren't authentic.
Yeah, I
And
think
it was a
Charlie's right.
misread of the moment.
The authenticity and trying to force a platform to life and force a platform to be watched by people is an incorrect thesis that is proven as a very large stumbling block. You have to build things small, authentic, organic, and let hit content and a hit feeling platform that people want to gravitate to grow authentically. You can't just cash it into existence. You can't just throw a bunch of cash at something and just expect, especially youth culture, to adopt it, regardless of the circumstances. So while clearly COVID has removed a lot of the mobile lifestyle moments away from people's life that Quibi was betting on, it's interesting to study why it doesn't grab, right? And do they still maybe have a grab point in their future? Like, I don't like to count anybody out before it's over, right? It's like it ain't over
Well,
till
sure,
it's
and I
over.
mean, you never count Jeff Katzenberg out. The guy has been down many times, and he always gets back up and is bigger and better than he was before. Although winning most all of the time sometimes is not a great teacher.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Facebook Horizon's coming out as well.
Oh yeah. Well, let's get to that in a second. I wanted to say one more thing about TikTok and doing the weekend this weekend. I mean, it's just like they drove a dump truck full of dirt and they dropped it right on top of the launch of Instagram Reels.
I wonder if that was on purpose or if it just was like the happiest accident of all time, right?
And people were talking about Instagram Reels this, Instagram Reels that, and all of a sudden, the subject has been changed. So good luck to Instagram Reels.
Right there. Yeah.
Other big news, of course, Epic Games.
1.7 billion in a funding.
Yeah, another 2 billion they're going after now because I guess they need some more capital. So why not, right?
Well, I mean, maybe they're going to turn Fortnite into an amazing virtual world, a metaverse, perhaps.
Yeah.
Speaking of metaverses,
the thing I'm paying very close attention to is Roblox and Sony Dreams right now. The idea of self-creation of games and building things and putting them out into the world. You want to talk about authentic and meaningful to small groups that then can grow into larger groups. So it'll be interesting why Epic is going after more funding. And I have an instinct that they're looking at what is going on with the not really underground of Roblox and still the underground of Sony Dreams, which I think is a very unlocked potential thing right now. And
tell us more about Sony Dreams.
Yeah.
So if you know what Roblox is, Sony Dreams is kind of like Roblox, except for the PlayStation platform. It's a video game you buy. It's created by I think the company's called Molecule or Molecule something. And it is a creation tool inside PlayStation to build various games and artwork and experiences. I don't think it has VR support yet, but I imagine that's coming. And it's extraordinarily powerful for a sort of a non-coding based coding tool, like create it, stick it up there, build the game interface. And you don't have to just build games with it. You can build art with it. You can build digital landscapes with it. You can, like for us professionally, we could use it for previs. We could use it for visualization.
Right.
We could use it for things that we use very expensive professional tools for. So it's interesting to watch those things start to come into play.
Yeah, and what CEO Tim Sweeney's going to do with $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll join.
We'll see if we're right.
Fortnite VR, man.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. So moving right along, Zoom AR. Zoom is launching more AR features so that you can, use facial recognition and have an eye patch when you're conferencing with your boss.
Yeah. Reminds me of the old days of Hangouts, right? Putting face filters on, hats on, and things over in a way.
And did you all see the sidebar on Zoom that they're launching their own dedicated Zoom device? kind of like what Facebook Portal did. They have like a dedicated
No.
Zoom tablet that the only thing it does is Zoom, and I think it's 600.
There you
Which is
go.
in and of itself just kind of hysterical that they're kind of
The
going.
modern
brand loyalty
household
right
allows you to Zoom from every room.
Right.
Yeah, it just was fascinating.
A luxury.
Yeah.
A luxury indeed.
So here's a story that I brought with me this week that actually is from 2 weeks ago, but I felt like, why didn't we hear about this? Because it seems like kind of big news. Peter Chow, one of the co-founders of HTC
Yeah.
VR, has announced he's building not only a VR world called XR Space, but an exclusive headset to go with it. So it's going to be $699. It's based on the Qualcomm 845 reference design. So, they have a picture of it online, which is essentially a picture of the Qualcomm reference design. And they have some pictures of this kind of semi-realistic cartoon land that you would live in, but nobody picked the story up. The only people who picked the story up was VentureBeat, God bless them. And that's how I stumbled upon it. But it's a pretty big announcement for a very high dollar project.
Yeah.
And apparently it was in the works
interesting
for some time before the pandemic hit.
It's interesting from my perspective because, HTC is one of the earliest pioneers in this with the Vive and the success of the Vive and their collaboration with Valve and Steam, and then that collaboration sort of cleaving off. And now they're kind of going after like an attempt at Second Life, but actually a dedicated hardware play, which may or may not be completely real yet. Like it may just be press fodder and they're putting it out there to sort of see what the market responds to. And to your point, Charlie, about how hard it was to find and how very little people picked it up, that may be enough of a leading indicator that they may not be on the right track with their own dedicated hardware, that people have a bit of early stage hardware exhaustion, and they're actually waiting for the next real breakthrough in hardware, not just another Me Too product out there, which is interesting to me.
Well, what we need is another product that's in the $200 range for a virtual reality headset. I mean, that's what's lacking in the market.
I know, RIP the Go, but that was not a bad idea. It just had to be sick stuff.
Well, yeah, and
speaking
unfortunate
of
for
virtual
a lot
worlds,
of the nonprofits out there, that use.
Do you know what's happening with Facebook Horizon? Has anybody? I mean, it seems like they either announced it too soon or it's late.
I know they're still working on it.
Did you guys get an invite?
Yeah.
No. Did you get an invite?
Yeah. I know they're still working on it. We saw it now. I feel like this is 2 years ago when they launched it at Oculus Connect, Charlie. Maybe
a year
longer.
Ago. A year ago.
1 year ago. And so it's kind of a year in the making. And again, seems, I don't want to be sort of the negative Nancy on this, but I feel like it's a bit heavy-handed. And again, they're not building small and trying to create authenticity and find their moments within this ecosystem of VR, which is still fairly small for really, active users like us. They're trying to attempt to sort of shove it into the reality as opposed to letting it cultivate correctly into the reality like VR Chat did. And I still continue to be a big fan of VR Chat.
Yeah, I am too. I think that let's give credit to Facebook, right? They haven't given up on this idea of a massively shared social world, right? They haven't quite figured out what the right way to execute it is, but they haven't given up, and they are investing heavily. So let's hope they come out with something that, where people want to spend some time. But I hear what you're saying about the builder platform.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, these platforms.
What we're doing right now, what the three of us are doing right now, is proving the thesis of Mark Zuckerberg that social VR and collaboration VR would be a viable form. So here's a small, nicely funded, but not giantly funded startup, Spatial, that is done their job and brought a product to market, and it works really well for this purpose, and it works well for a lot of purposes. Probably not every purpose under the planet, but it's done a really good job, right? And they continue to grow that platform. And sometimes you kind of sometimes you look at these sort of Apple-esque, like Apple doesn't try and do everything, right? They build the bones, they build
Right,
certain
right.
things, then they let an app community go and attack the problems. So Spatial attacked this problem, and I would say they've done a pretty good job of it. I've used it a few times. Elliot, is our producer here watching us from the side, he and I have been in it. Charlie, you and I have been in it, and like
Yeah.
it's achievable. So
Well, there's a
Yeah.
reason where it's not to make a commercial for Spatial. There are many companies in this space. Spatial, I think, kind of accidentally on purpose, assembled the right kind of airplane to build while they were flying it. Partly because I think
Yeah.
it was built as an MR device, right? But then they had to quickly pivot and make it work for VR and PCs and smartphones. And that is exactly what you need to do with the new technology. You need to meet people where they are. So, if Sarah has a headset, that's great. She can have a more immersive experience. But if Brandon has a PC or Elliot has a smartphone, they shouldn't be excluded from participating in the collaboration.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what's
And one thing
interesting
that
from
would
my
help-
standpoint, because we're doing it over and over again, is the audio latency problem of this is actually their biggest weak spot. The visuals work great. I feel like I'm in the same room with you. I am watching the
Yes.
two of you as if you were in my living room and vice versa for you. But the audio latency dynamic is absolutely needs to be solved because this doesn't exist in
Yes.
video chat. They've figured it out, right? And they haven't figured it out here.
Yep.
So I think we're all on the beta of this and we'll see if it gets better. But
Yeah.
it's like this wait
Well,
and
one
pause
thing-
and then we're all jump on top of each other. It's interesting.
One thing that would be really helpful either in Spatial or in Horizons, whatever platforms, if there was ability to interact inside more of the apps, just like in the old days of television where you have channels, the ability that we could bring you into Helium or inside some of these other places that everyone could have a group relationship. I bet too,
Yeah.
Charlie, in a very short time, you're going to have a live audience, in all of those shares that are listening to you and interacting with you, much like, a talk show back in the day. But it's not just about the objects, but that content that's brought into it. So that'll be exciting to watch, to see
And
those features.
Facebook has announced that they're
places.
Facebook is very much doing that. They've talked publicly about the fact that what you just talked about, Sarah, is what they're not just planning on doing, but actively doing. Taking as many apps as they can where the developers will allow this to happen and allow them to be socially aware so that if you're playing in a game or you want to bring something to somebody, you can do that. So that's where their muscle and their strength, I think, is going to show itself.
Yep. Excited for that. What do we got up
Absolutely.
next?
Well, I think that's what the week has given us. I don't know. Do we have something else we want to talk about, or we'll cut it off early and leave them wanting more?
That sounds good to me. I'll go and
Well,
have my
I
virtual
thank
wine
you.
and enjoy the rest of the
Yeah,
night.
thank you very much. Cheers to you. Where's your cup, Charlie? You need a cup here. Let's see.
Oh, here I
Yeah,
have.
toss
I have a
mine.
cup over here. Oh, you're go ahead, Ted.
I'll give you
Thanks.
my wine, Charlie. There you go.
All right. Cheers to
Your
you.
cup
Thank you for letting me
does not
be a
runneth
part
over.
of your. Yeah. See
But
y'all
we
later.
toast you all at home anyway.
That we do. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for
Cheers.
joining
All
us,
right.
Sarah.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.